Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I guess this guy needs no introduction, but just in case, Jon Dorenbos, longtime Eagle snapper, he's going to be performing at Live coming up this weekend, Saturday night, 7 o'clock, AXS.com for tickets. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Dorenbos. What's up, John?
Come on, baby. It's been too long. Thanks for having me, and glad to be here.
It's great to have you. Now, I don't know if your ears were ringing the other day, but I'm talking to a buddy of mine who told his then-girlfriend, now wife, he was going to walk on at Michigan as the long snapper simply because he knew he could do it. He didn't end up doing it. And I did ask him, I said, do you have any film on you long snapping? And he goes, no. I said, you should pull a Jon Dorenbos. And he goes, what the heck's that mean? And I said, well, Jon Dorenbos didn't have film of him long snapping. Is it true? Is this true? You used a buddy of yours film long snapping and not your own?
I'm gonna correct that.
Okay.
That
what is it? What is it?
That is not true.
Okay.
I used two buddies. I used mine.
Okay.
And two buddies. Nick Heinley was a linebacker who just destroyed people. I took some of his big hits because let's face it, back in the day, one camera, no HD. Who's to say, right? He was 48, I was 47. We were both kind of stocky white guys. We're good. I had a few clips of me snapping in high school, but I didn't have any for like 2 years because I hadn't snapped. I was at a junior college, so a year and a half, right? And so I took Tim Thurman, who's a 6'6" long snapper, and I just kind of threw his tape on there and just called it a day. And my buddy was at UTEP who played with all three of us, who played with Tim, Nick, and me. And he vouched for me. They called him in. Hey, Dorenbos, pretty good player, right? He's like, yeah, he's a good player. And he could snap too, right? Yeah. He snapped in high school. Yeah, he can long snap. And he kind of looked at the tape like, wait a minute. Hey, John, is that you? Hey, don't worry about it. Just vouch for me, get me in, and let's do this. All right. Not only that, but that was at the time when like long snapper was becoming its own position. So I got a full ride to long snap, and was kind of at the beginning of that era, even in the NFL, where I helped launch a position. Man, it's pretty cool.
I believe that the term "fake it till you make it" comes to mind.
But I knew I could do it. Hold on. I knew
Yeah.
I could do it. I could do it. I just needed an opportunity. So really, it's don't lie, don't deceive. But the moral of the story here is believe in yourself more than anybody will believe in you, and just keep going. See how I spun that right
That's
there?
good. That's good for the kids. That's good for the kids.
So it's morally, it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Maybe I could CGI in a little "the more you know" star going across. John, so obviously you're in the magic circuit. You're back to performing. You're a father of a young lady, 2.5 years old, happily married, my man. I mean, life really can't get much better for Jon Dorenbos, can it?
Hey, it's awesome, man. And you know what? Here's the deal, right? And this is everybody. Let's just make the best of every situation. So I was stuck at home for 10.5 months too, but you're going to find the positive and keep on rocking. We talked about this right before we went on air, and this goes for life, business. I don't care, man. Stay ready. So you never got to get ready, right? Show up every day, prepared, ready to work, have a smile on your face, make the decision to be happy. And hey, man, life is, man, endless.
John, I'm so lucky to have had the opportunity to interview you a number of times, but I will say some of my favorite times with you are getting to do player pieces in the locker room, interviewing you guys, bouncing around and all that stuff. And whenever I would interview you, it would be like 10 seconds of a question and an answer, and then maybe a minute and a half of just goofing off. Next thing I know, you're trying to feed Donnie Donkey Leg Jones some water ice. You're over here talking to somebody else about their Madden ratings, just whatever. So what did you do for 10 months while you were stuck at home with the rest of the family?
Believe it or not, the virtual speaking world was enormous. And if you can be more than just a talking face in front of a screen, which I had the opportunity to do, we did that. And so I built a studio here at the house. And the virtual speaking world was huge. I got to do that. And then I was a dad, which worked out perfect. So I got to, and I worked a ton. It was great. I worked a ton, but I didn't travel. And so it actually, looking back now, here's the deal. I was casted in the new Varsity Blues. I was John Boyd's predecessor as the head coach of the West Canaan High, right? And so we were just about to start filming that. That was going to be a huge opportunity, big break. That gets canceled. Everything gets postponed. And so life shut down. And now here's the deal. Though my career was going like this and then everything got canceled and postponed, there is nothing I wouldn't trade for the 11 months, 12 months, a year and a half, whatever you want to call it, that I spent at my daughter's age from 1 to 2.5 to be home every day, not taking away the downside of COVID and what people experience. But for me, spending every day with my daughter, I wouldn't trade that for the world.
It's the best way to look at something. When it hands you lemons, you got to make lemonade, as they say. I picture you as a dad where your kid might be looking at you being like, Dad, it's my turn to play with the toy. Come on. Is that kind of how it goes?
It's really bad when you smack your kid's hand off her own building blocks and say, "Don't do that. Dad's building mommy a yacht with a condo right next to it. Stop it. No, give me that piece of mine. That piece is mine. I need the 4-pronger. It's got to go on the top."
Okay, so I was accurate in that assessment.
Completely.
What did you miss about the live audience? I know, like, whether it's football, whether it's performing in a live audience, just having that live crowd there. What was that? What did you miss the most about not having that live audience?
Energy. And you know what else? Unpredictability, right? Being on stage, anything happens in live entertainment. I dig that, right? The idea that I do really difficult tricks that can go wrong. That's what keeps you on your toes. So, and speaking of which, if you've seen the show before, which a lot of my fans have, I got some new stories. I got some new tricks. So you'll see some new stuff, which I don't know if we mentioned this, but live Casino Philadelphia, baby. Come on, Saturday, November 6th, 7 p.m.
That's right. People can go down there. I assume this is your first time there?
Yeah, well, I've been there. I've stayed there. Beautiful place. I wish that was there when I played. I mean, I'm talking like this thing is super nice. So I was stoked. First time I've actually played this room. And I don't know if this is accurate. I got to confirm this, but I think I'm one of the first headlining act. Like they're kind of like, they've had like dry runs and they've had some acts in there, but I don't know if I got to confirm this. So I got a little surprise little thing for it. But if that's the case, then I'm pretty excited to be kind of the first act in that room. But I don't know if that's true or not.
You said it. Good enough for me. First act in that room, Jon Dorenbos, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll take it.
That's how we'll do it.
It's the first act in the room. Now back to you, Mark.
when you come up with a new trick, how long does it take you from idea to I can totally perform this in front of a packed house?
So I had one, and I spent 2 years and money, and 2.5 years. And then I went and performed it a bunch, and then you perform it and then go back, perform it, go back, what worked, what didn't work. And I think I just came to the realization 2 shows ago that it's just not really what I was hoping for. And it just doesn't work. Audience just so unfortunately, I think we're going to shelf it, and it's my pride and joy. But anyways, you never know. Some are hits, some take a while. Some you develop and then you perform it. Like I said, then you get beats or opportunity, or what did the audience hit? What clapped? What didn't? What should have got a laugh? What didn't? And then you go back, and just like a football game, you go back and analyze it, and critique it and grade it and check it off. So some take years. David Copperfield has spent millions and millions on one trick in 10 years just to get it right. And so you never know.
That's one of the things that always amazes me about magicians is it's like stand-up comedy, but you're also doing this thing it has to be perfectly timed with what you're saying and what you're performing. How do you plan that to go together? How do you get that timing down?
Well, gosh, that you just unlocked Pandora's box, because you're supposed to time that and plan that. And then I think I have it planned, and then I've got my cue sheet, and then I stopped doing cue sheets. I just have guys that know where I'm going, because who's going to miss the cue? This guy right here, right? They're like, "John, I was waiting for the cue. Remember you said you were going to say this specifically?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did say I would say that, didn't I? Did I not say it? Didn't say it. You didn't even come close." So, like I said, you asked me what I missed about the live, right? It's the energy and unpredictability. So, I just kind of go out there and wing it sometimes.
One of the things that I remember, because I was out there in Minnesota when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and Jeffrey Lurie invited you back with the team, and you got to hang out with those guys and be there with them when they won the Super Bowl, and you're a part of that forever, my friend, just as like you're a part of this franchise forever. One of the things I remember is you bouncing around, just having the time of your life, as you would expect someone in your position at that time doing. What do you take away from being with the team during that Super Bowl run?
I was a long snapper that was traded for a draft pick, which I believe I was the first long snapper ever traded for a draft pick in the NFL. And then I was awarded a Super Bowl ring, a player's ring, for a team I didn't play for. So there's 2 things, right? Scratch it off that, right? Making history. So I told Jeff, if I don't get a ring as a player, I'm never going to get one, because I don't want to coach. And so sure enough, when this whole thing went down, he's like, "Hey, you didn't coach and you didn't play, but guess what? You're still getting a ring." So that ring for me means a lot more than it, to me now than had I played, because he basically was like, "Look, you showed up every day, on time, prepared, ready to work. There's nobody else here I'd rather have for 11 and a half years. So wherever you go in life, look at this ring, remember the hard work it took, remember the sacrifice, and apply that into every aspect of your life, and you'll be a champion forever." So it's cool to look back on it. I didn't get to play, clearly, and so I took the next best thing, right? And that was to try and live it and experience it. They asked me to be in the Super Bowl parade, which this is a great story. Not to ramble here, but here I am, right? I'm at the Super Bowl parade. I'm like 9 months off my surgery, still on some pills, so I'm kind of in a fog. This is cool. And I'm getting on the bus with Jason Peters, and Donnie Jones, and Darren Sproles, and I get stopped by the front office, and they're like, "Hey, John, this is the player bus. You have to go on the alumni bus. And it was kind of like a oh gosh,
Yeah.
that's right. Like I'm not really a player. And then they looked at me and said, but on the alumni bus, it's just you and Brian Dawkins. Is that cool? Wait, me and Doc, perfect fitting. You know what? I think, you know what? Look, I'll allow Brian on my bus. So literally it was just Brian and I driving down, and the whole time they're like, hey, Joe, like Hall of Fame Dawkins, right? And it was like, I mean, I got to go in this, not just be a part of the Super Bowl parade, but I got to do it next to Brian Dawkins, who greatest Eagle of all time. So that was pretty cool.
That is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. When you walk into a room, you've got this thing called charisma, and I'm not breaking news when I say that. You got charisma. When you walk into a room, you own the room. Now, I would assume as a head coach, that guy's got to own the room when he walks into it. And a lot of us in the media, I'm not saying the people in the locker room, but people in the media, look at this new Nick Sirianni guy and go, I don't know if he owns the room. What have you heard? What have you seen about Nick Sirianni? What do you like? What don't you like? What have you heard about the man?
All right, what have I heard? I've heard a ton of Coco Melon. I've heard a ton of Baby Einstein. I've heard a ton of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star as she flies around with the owl. I've heard A, B, C, D. Now I know my ABCs. So I haven't watched as much football as I would have liked, but I haven't really heard a lot about that. But I will say this. Here's my observation, and I played a long time. I don't know if it was around the Sanchez, Bradford era, shortly after. Young quarterbacks all of a sudden were expected to play right away. You drafted this kid high. We're paying him a ton of money. He's got to play right away. I just think that's so unfair in that one position. That is the hardest position in professional sports. And so there's such a demand to win right away. And what I observed is that it's really hard. You get a new coach, new quarterback, new system, new this, new that, to turn that around and then all of a sudden just win. It's hard, man. It's a hard expectation to fulfill. So I wish that the league would go back to letting quarterbacks just sit for a few years, right? And I remember when Andy Reid drafted Donovan, if I remember right, Andy was like, this is a 5-year project. Like, I'm not, don't rush this kid. So, in defense of Jalen Hurts and any young quarterback, they're thrown in with wolves, man. It's a way different game than college. And so there's a lot of things going on there and to get all those pieces to fit. And I think that's the Eagles, right? New coach, young quarterback, this, that, all this change. Sometimes it just takes a little time to kind of get in the groove and get it done.
When it comes to, football, he's done football. He's obviously doing magic. Let me take away those two things. What's third on the list for Jon Dorenbos? What else are you doing?
Well, let me excuse myself and grab something here on my bookshelf to show
what?
you.
What?
Well, this is okay. This is something I just want to give a shout out to the Eagles fans. I'm super stoked to get back to Philly because anytime I can get back there, show appreciation, do whatever I can. I love you guys. This is what's called a McFarlane figure for those on the radio. Oh, I got a green screen going, so it looks like a white jersey, but that's actually really funny to me, actually. A McFarlane figure is a very expensive collectible of an athlete. They're a couple $100, and it's usually Hall of Famers. This is a Jon Dorenbos McFarlane figure.
Wow.
Hey, you know what the truth is? This is actually Kevin Mawai of the Tennessee Titans, who's a Hall of Fame center and an Eagles fan, bought Kevin Mawai, sanded him down, and perfectly painted this guy to be Jon Dorenbos. So here's what's great. I'll have meetings, right? Big execs come over, whatever, and they want to see my little trophy room. Cool. And I have this thing on the counter. And I kid you not, all of them go, bro, you got a McFarlane figure?
That's amazing.
Yes, I do.
Good for you, my friend. Good for you. Live casino Saturday night, 7 p.m. Make sure you guys check it out. AX, for people that are not hearing me, AXS.com for your tickets. Go see Jon Dorenbos. Last thing for you, John. You mentioned how you love Philadelphia. Your old teammate, Jason Kelce, recently came out and talked about how great it was to play in Philadelphia. It's an honest fan base. When I'm sure this happens, when people are like, oh, yeah, well, you played in Philly, right? You played in Philadelphia. When they ask you about that, what's the first thing that jumps to mind when you talk about playing in Philadelphia?
Well, the first thing that I get hit with is, oh my gosh, you played in Philly? Whew, that must have been hard. I mean, they threw snowballs at Santa. You know what? This was my observation. Now, I'm not stereotyping anybody. I'm not saying that this individual had this characteristic, but here's my observation. If you point fingers, you make excuses, it's never your fault, and you're just kind of an idiot, the city's going to run you out of town, right? If you show up every day, on time, prepared, ready to work, you give it your all. And if you make a mistake, you get in front of a camera and say, yo, my bad. And I'm going to tell you right now, Philly, that ain't never happening again. And then the next day, you're the first one at the facility improving or correcting that mistake. man, Philly rallies behind you. Philly cheers you on. And if you do mess up a little bit, Philly will make excuses for you because they believe in you and they're rallying behind who you are as a person and what you represent. So Jason Kelce is a perfect example of just tough grit, man, somebody you want on your team, a perfect teammate, a perfect leader, somebody that shows up every single day, somebody that never backs down. He's like today's John Runyon. You know what I mean? So it makes perfect sense why all of a sudden he's the face of this conversation and so appreciative because he's the guy that Philly loves.
Absolutely. What a great way to put that. Jon Dorenbos, once again, Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Go see him at Live Casino right there in South Philadelphia. Tickets right there at AXS.com. Jon, great catching up with you, man. We miss you around Philadelphia. Look forward to seeing you Saturday night, my man.
One more thing. If you're an Eagles fan, it's really cool. Teammates, Darren Sproles, Avant, Todd Harriman's Runyon. I'm waiting to hear back from Westbrook and Trey Thomas. They're all going to the show. So you never know who you're going to see.
Oh, that's
just
incredible.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
They're hard to miss. Those guys are hard to miss if they're there. You know what I'm saying? Now,
oh, yeah.
Jon, great catching up with you, man. Good luck and look forward to talking to you again soon.
You're the man, dude. Thanks.
See ya.